even when you talk about across the border from where you're at right now, the Motown era, a lot of those guys died broke, bro. Okay, so now with the new cyber age of music, digital technology, and downloading and streamings, there seems to be a platform that's going to sustain the livelihood of artists to where they can make millions and millions of dollars on a global stage and not die broke. All day long, I'm thinking of you. You're inside that you're feeling me too. Heart rate fast, pace not slow. I wish you could know. You don't know the clue, simply because I am still your secret love. Heart rate fast, pace not slow. Too early to show.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Roe Show. This week we have a few old friends of ours, Julian and Annalisa Pavone. But this time we have brought in their producer and head coach, Ace West. In case you hadn't noticed, the song playing right now is Annalisa's amazing vocals, Julian's lightning drums, and Ace West's vision for bringing it all together as head producer and coach. Ace is an award-winning producer and has worked with some of the biggest names in the music biz, including the Soul Children and the Queen of Soul herself, Aretha Franklin. Along with Julian and Annalisa, we discuss a bit more of the business behind the music industry in this episode. We discuss what a producer does when creating a song, and Ace gives us a walkthrough from his perspective. We will also get into how the music landscape has changed due to streaming and social media, and how that has both affected the music business as well as the acrobatic industry. So if you love music and want a sneak peek into the behind the scenes of actually making music, then this episode's for you. Okay guys, let's go.
No one to know about us, but I can tell you the truth. If you just listen up, I can open up my heart for you. There's no need to rush. Sit back, that's enough. You don't gotta push and shove, because ready or not, here come that secret love.
Hey guys, welcome to the Roe Show. Hope you guys are doing well. We got Annalisa, we got Julian, and we got Ace West, master producer. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you guys doing?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're doing well.
Thank you for having us, G-Ro.
That's my new name. I love it. I'm going to go roll with that. I'm going to make a whole new social media. I'm totally down. And we're going to get to that because Ace, you're all about personality with artists, right? So we're going to make sure we dive into that a little bit later. So I love it. I love your thinking about it. But before we get into all that sort of stuff, let's just kind of have a little recap. What have you guys been doing? You guys have made your own music videos. You're making your own tracks. You're doing all this sort of stuff. Can you walk me through what you guys did with your latest single release?
Alisa, that's all you.
Well, I had the pleasure of working with Ace, and we recorded a song, and it was an insane experience. It was very fun.
Awesome. What was so insane about it? What was one of the most favorite parts of it? What did you like about it?
I think
in the studio.
Yeah, and I think like seeing the production happen, because I've never seen like how a song is actually made, so I think that was very cool to see.
Is it more complicated than you thought, I bet?
Yes, very complicated.
Yeah. And what about you, Julian? Same sort of thing, or did you have a different perspective?
Well, I've been in the studio before, but it was when I was 19 months, and I recorded a CD with Ralph Armstrong, who's a world-renowned bassist. But this is the first time I've ever been really a part of the production process and remembered being in the production process. So it was very cool to see all the different, little tricks that go into making a production and making a song.
That's very cool. Yeah, I can imagine that you hear it on the radio and it's like, wow, this looks perfect. How hard could it be? Just talking to a mic and you're done. But in reality, this is where Ace comes in and he performs some magic. So Ace, tell us a little bit about your perspective of working with these guys in that last music song.
Well, again, thank you for having me, Greg, Mr. G-Ro, and for having us on your show. And it was really my pleasure to assist Annalisa and Julian with the production of Secret Love for various reasons. Number one, Julian is just a phenomenal musician, first off, okay? And then I had always had the desire to work with him since he was like 4 years old. So he had my heart. He had my heart as he did millions of others around the world, including Oprah Winfrey and other very well-respected journalists and musicians in this world. when it came to Annalisa, when I first heard her sing, I knew she had it. I knew she had what it would take to be able to sing some of my songs, which it has been difficult for some other child stars to accomplish down the road, not saying no names. But it was really an honor to be able to work with such well-mannered, balanced, and humble teenagers as Annalisa and Julian. You don't just find that very often, that you can find teens that are really dedicated and committed to their craft with a passion. And remember, this is their debut single, okay? It's their debut single, preferably I should say, Annalisa's debut single is not Julian's first record, but it's Annalisa's debut single. And man, I was just so impressed. It was like she had been doing this forever. It was like she had woke out the bed, went to the studio every day from the time she was a toddler, just like Julian. I felt like she was just as seasoned a vocalist as he was a co-producer and a musician on this record. And I was really, really pleased, and I'm still thrilled at what we got coming.
No, it's very, yeah. I remember when I first met you guys back in that trampoline park, how many years ago, learning how to do little front flips and stuff like that. And even then when you guys were performing at the park, same thing, like what you're saying, Ace, said, just like, hey, that's cool. I've never seen anything like that before, especially a little guy, you know, going crazy, and the vocals and everything. And it just meshes together in a way that I'm like, wow, okay, that's really, really cool. So I'm with you 100%. And yeah, you guys have done an amazing job. So can you tell us a little bit about what the little process was in going and making your first single here, or your first album, or soon to be album? Can you walk us through a little bit from Julian and Annalisa, your perspective of how that worked out, and maybe a timeline of some kind?
Yeah, so first, our dad, you know, he's been in contact with Ace West for a while now. And Ace sent over a track to my dad saying Annalisa would sound great on this. Ace wanted a video of Annalisa singing to the track that he sent. So Annalisa sent a video, Ace loved it. And from there, I worked with Annalisa to perfect the vocals and perfect the sound of it on the track. And then I went into, a little bit of drummer mode and started putting the drums on it, sending tracks over to Ace and the other musicians on the record. And then from there, we came into Michigan for February break for school. And we got in the studio and we recorded everything. Ace mixed it all down, or Carl B mixed it all down, but we had it mastered and perfected, put the final touches on it. And that's how we ended up with the track that we have today.
Very cool. And Annalisa, from your perspective, how was it where he was doing the drummings and the producing side, but you got to focus on just amazing vocals? How did that work out for you?
I think it was just so cool to work with such amazing people and have this opportunity to even be able to do this at such a young age. So I'm very grateful for that. It was just so fun, just to be in the studio, especially with family. It was very fun.
Was it a big studio? Was it at a huge auditorium, or was it nice and close quarters where everyone was just right there vibing together?
It was a cozy little studio. It was really nice.
Yeah, we recorded at Pack 3 in Dearborn, Michigan. So it's not a really big studio, but I think that's what made the whole experience that much more special, because it felt so natural, and it didn't feel like it was too professional almost in a way, but where everybody could be comfortable and relaxed. And I know for me, from my experience, just from recording the drums, there was no pressure, there was no strain or anything. It felt natural.
Yeah, no, I can totally relate to that. When we're competing for trampoline gymnastics and you're used to training at a local gym that's a little smaller, lower ceilings usually, everything's a little bit more compact in, it's more comfortable. And all of a sudden you get out to this huge, 40,000 seat arena, and all of a sudden the ceiling is way up here, and you just kind of feel so much smaller and insignificant, really. And it does throw you off. So I know exactly what you're talking about. That is so cool. And okay, so Ace, then from your perspective, being the master producer, what exactly is your role? Can you walk us through, when these guys are done what they're doing, where do you jump in, and how do you really put this all together?
Well, I mean, it starts with the song. Okay, it starts with the song. I thank God for the ability to be able to be an author first. So, as a matter of fact, the great iconic Aretha Franklin, who's my mentor, once told me when I was giving her props for being an iconic artist, a great singer, a great humanitarian, and all those things, great cook that she was, she turned back to me and she said, well, you know, Norman, there are a lot of great singers out there, but without a great song, a great singer don't have nothing to sing about. So we have to give our hats off. We great singers, we give our hats off to the great songwriters. So the process begins with the song, okay? Song selection, and you'll even hear individuals like Simon, you know, formerly from American Idol, and other great judges on a lot of The Voice and music shows like that. They're very, very focused in on the song selections of the individuals who get and perform. And so you want to be able to give your artist or your vocalist the best shot at displaying their vocal talents. And so I believe that Secret Love was one of those songs for Annalisa. It fit her voice perfectly. It was tailor-made just for her. So from there we go to keyboards or drum machines, and we put the track together. You sync tracks with the lyrics, and you submit it to management, artists, and you get confirmation. You put a little bit more ice cream on a cone. You make it look and taste real good. You have your pre-production. Okay. Once you go from pre-production, you go into full production. And that's pretty much how we walk through. But everybody had their own responsibility, their own job. We got a great team. And I'm really, really proud of the product that we've been able to produce between Julian and I and Carl B. And of course, Annalisa, the diva. I'm really just so impressed. Everybody that hears the song, man, just talks about what a wonderful, great job that she's done vocally. And when I tell them that she's 15, his mouth just dropped to the floor. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
it's an amazing song.
Listen, man, because I expected great things out of Julian already. I didn't expect Annalisa to be able to do what she did like she did it. You know, in fact, I was on a hunt to find, the right vocalist that could match her voice and the style type what we had for the song. I was on a hunt to try to find a background vocalist to go on this track, and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but I'm glad it didn't, because she did all the backgrounds herself. So,
that's very cool.
And as a debut single, for a debut recording, that's unheard of. Okay, so I'm still gonna give Annalisa her props, and I'm for sure Julian, he right along with me. I was expecting great things out of Julian. I do have high expectations because of the walk that I've had to walk to get where I am, and individuals that I've worked with and their standards. And I think that we exceeded those standards and the potential what we did with this single here, Secret Love.
Well, I've heard that song 100 times, and I would 100% agree. It's one of those ones that just gets really catchy, and then you just got oh again, and so then you know that you're onto something, because it's not like you hear the radio and you're waiting for the next song. Okay, thank God it's over. It's more like no, why is it over already? And so I'm with you 100%. And that, as a producer, is what you're going for. You're looking for. It's almost like in the esports gaming world, they're looking for that addictive sort of behavior where you want to listen to it over and over and over. Are you building that into the way you write your scripts for the artist and the way you do the production and figuring out who the background singers are? That's part of the thought process?
Absolutely. And it's a custom creation, and it's unlimited. A lot of things that we did that we hadn't rehearsed, that we did right in the studio on the fly. Hey, let's do this. How let's try and see how this is gonna sound. Or let's try and see. And by the way, I'm sorry, Julian, I didn't know that you were such a great keyboard player. I knew he played drums now, but he showed out. He showed out. You know, he brought some other things to the table that I wasn't expecting, and they were very acceptable and complimentary to our production. Yeah, so he has evolved. Speaking of Julian, when I say he has evolved from a percussionist, a drummer, to a producer, a musician, and a lot of people don't really understand that one of our other great producers that I worked with, Narda Michael Walden, who's also from Michigan. I think he's from Grand Rapids. He's the guy who wrote and produced Freeway. We're going riding on the freeway. He did that for Aretha Franklin. He's also a Michigander too from Grand Rapids. He was a drummer. Even if you look at the Freeway of Love video, you'll see him playing the drum set in the video. I think I take that same greatness from Julian, and he's still in his teens. He's not even legal drinking age yet. So I can imagine. I'm just telling the truth now, G. I'm telling the truth. I can imagine what Julian gonna be a beast in the next 5 years, bro. Okay. Yeah.
I think both of them are gonna be a beast.
Top artists gonna have to come, Julian. Top artists gonna have to come see you because you're gonna be doing such incredible work, just as you've done with this record. Thank you.
Well, you bring up a good thing. So, Annalisa, Julian, is it normal that most artists will have different specialties, and drumming, then keyboard, then producing, which is more of the business side? Is that normal, or do you find that it's everyone's in one lane, you know, doing one type of thing and hoping to be put into a group with other talented people, or is there a lot of crossover?
I think everybody has their own characteristics that bring something new to the table. And that's why we have artists today that sound so different from one another. I mean, sure, there are people who sound similar, but from the producer that they have to the sounds that they use, it's what separates artists from one another. So like with this record, we had this old sounding, I think we started off, I wasn't sure, like the track that A sent me, it was this old, like almost 80s, like, you know, this retro sound of that synth, that like arpeggiating synth. And from there we had then Annalisa's vocals, who she naturally has her own sound and tone that's different from majority of singers that I've heard. And then from there we put live drums on the track instead of, you know, today the mainstream drums are from drum machines, they're electric, you know, but we put live drums and then a live bass instead of just, you know, an 808, and threw guitar on there. So we used a lot of different aspects that aren't mainstream to then make a song that not only stands out, but it stands out to also bring something new to the table and something new that isn't so popular in today's music.
Well, that's interesting, because a lot of music, and excuse me if I'm wrong here, but I see a lot of auto-tune in music. And after I've listened to kind of, you know, the, I guess, radio rap, whatever that is, after about 3 songs, it all sounds the same to me. So do you guys find that things are now a little bit more similar and people aren't distinguishing themselves as much as they used to maybe back in the day?
I think everyone's kind of trying to be different to kind of stand out and kind of draw like more attention to themselves. And I think like this song brought back, you know, 80s, 70s, like that kind of feel, especially with like the homage to D-Train. Like, I think that really like tied it all together.
Yeah, no,
and in today's music, we definitely see, I mean, sure, there's similarities and that's going to happen throughout history, but I can totally see how some people may find, you know, the mainstream music all sounding the same, but when you do really listen to it and you focus on the specific sounds used, you find the differences and you find, you know, the different sounds that separate maybe a hit from something that's not a hit, or, you know, one artist style to another artist style. They may be in the same genre, but there's a reason they have 2 different names.
That's interesting because in our industry, it's everyone kind of looks the same, and they all do the exact same thing. And our whole freestyle thing is to try to get people to not be the same, to not just kind of follow the other person, and to find that unique flavor that is really about them. And it's interesting that you're talking about the fact that, to a person like me who doesn't, understand music the way you guys do, I don't pick up on these things. But you guys know. So when I'm looking at a backflip of some kind, I'll know, oh, the knee was there and the shoulder should have been there. You guys just see a guy do a flip and hopefully not die, right? So it's kind of funny. It's so similar that, if you're not in that industry and knowing exactly what to look for, it's almost like you can't tell the difference. And that's where you guys are really almost fighting an uphill battle, I find, because you're trying to distinguish yourselves even though the regular audience probably still doesn't necessarily fully appreciate how hard it is what you guys do, because they don't understand the techniques and the details that just go right over their head. Does that frustrate you sometimes? Do you notice that? Or
let me just say this, G. We're musicians. We actually play instruments. So we don't have to sample somebody else's stuff to make it sound full or thick. We just build around what we have. And right now, technology allows us to use sample sounds, like the 64-bit samples of high quality digital samples, okay? But it's a difference in taking a loop, a 4-bar loop or 8-bar loop for somebody else's song and integrating it into your song. I'm not saying that I'm opposed to it. I'm just saying that we haven't found a desire to be able to, required to do that with our material right now. And then, I hear a lot of great songs that I really love that have elements of songs from the 70s and 60s, 80s, and 90s. But we're probably more like an original band when it comes to our production. Even though we're doing everything synced and digital and we're using drum machines, we're actually playing the stuff and not depending on someone who has played it prior to us in their performance.
No, I love it. And you can definitely tell the difference when I think I might have mentioned this on Annalisa and Julian on our first podcast, when I was watching some guy just kind of lip syncing a rap song, but then they had the Smashing Pumpkins actually playing and going crazy and the sweat was flying off of them. And you could see that they actually had to figure out and play it in live, not just, cheat, as far as I can tell, right? So I think even people like me can still tell the difference between someone who's kind of skirting around the hard work in a sense and really are digging down and making the sounds, not just using other people's sounds and trying to mix and match. I can tell the difference. So I really enjoy listening to that because it means more. It's more authentic, But do you find that now, if we were to go back in history, I would find that a lot more people were like that. Frank Sinatra and Aretha Franklin and all these people, they all had their own unique sounds. Is everyone still fighting to make their unique sound, but because everyone's an artist now, it's just a saturated market and it's harder? Or is it a different mentality in the industry? Have you seen a change since the 60s and 70s and 80s till recently?
Oh God, absolutely. Absolutely. They're number one, there are changes from analog to digital and from digital to high def. Okay. And of course, with those changes, you go from magnetic analog tape to no rewind time. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you can identify with that on the video end of it. There's just no rewind time. You just hit a button and you're back to zero. I like the fact that that I have a lot of gear that I use to record and to mix now in the computer. You don't have to have a whole lot of space to take up racks with outboard gear because a lot of it is built into the computer now. Okay. The manufacturers probably sell just maybe even more now with the software than they did with the hardware. I had to fact check that. Don't quote me on that, but I had to fact check that. But I would believe that. I would believe that if I'm trying to ship my whatever this unit is worldwide, I'm gonna get a lot more success if I can just put it in a box where somebody can download it. You know what I'm saying? Instead of trying to ship it to every corner of the world. So that's why I said that.
So do you find that the business of it has sped up because of increased technology, but would it be fair to say that the actual, the artistry itself maybe hasn't changed as much? Yes, there's different sounds now, but it's more the business has changed, not necessarily the production of the actual music?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll have to say that the production has not changed, but it's on another level now. It's a lot faster, like you said. Everything is a lot faster. Everything, even as we release singles now, as we release albums now, you want to have a quicker turnaround on what you're releasing and what you're producing and things like that. Yeah, you got a lot of independent labels now that are being successful. A lot of independent artists that don't even have a label that's being successful without the majors. And granted, I've done a lot of work with major record companies, and I assume to continue, if I want to continue to eat well like I have been. But ultimately, my goal is to see, what we do as independents become just as successful as the majors. In fact, you have some independents that the majors depend on their sales to keep them going now. So there's a big difference, bro. There's a big difference.
That's interesting that you bring it. Again, another analogy to the more acrobatic world where, traditional Olympics requires you to go compete for a federation and be on Team Canada or Team USA or whatever it is. And that would be kind of like getting a big record deal when we take a certain number a year and you basically get everything covered and it is what it is. But now what we're seeing with this whole freestyle wave is there's a lot more independent athletes that are just kind of doing it alone because they can now go on social media. They can get the faster production times and stuff like that with their actual skills, not the artistry, obviously, but the same sort of thing applies where now you have all these independent artists now that are actually threatening almost to kind of undo some of that traditional structure because now they don't seem as because you're now all these guys are out there with a couple million followers doing backflips off of Venice Beach. Well, they're actually getting more out of it than the Olympians are getting. And we're seeing this kind of now all of a sudden these two things sort of they're parting ways. And now the independents are having a lot more power, I guess. Are you seeing the same thing in music?
Absolutely. And so a lot of new artists come out the gate, they just want a record deal. Oh, I want to get signed. Oh, I want to get a deal. I'm trying to work on getting this deal. But you come out independent, you make some noise, you get your numbers up, and you make a major want you, even to the degree where it won't even hurt you if you say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not interested right now. You make them want you by what you do. You show who you are by what you do, how you perform, how your numbers are, and you make them want you. You make them come at you. Other than that, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're a new artist and now you owe the record company $500,000, $2 million, and your sales are not what they should be in order to be able to recoup those expenses, from the label, and you're going to find yourself in a hole. I mean, you gotta really know what you're doing when you get in a situation with major labels and they're gonna advance you money. And first and foremost, you got to have ironclad management, somebody that truly has your best interests at heart and that know what the heck they're doing. Okay, you got to have that, and that's really the first step. Have your business together. I mean, this thing here, entertainment business, 30% entertainment, 70% business. Entertainment business.
Interesting. That's an interesting point because I would argue that acrobats have done it completely the opposite. And maybe this is why, the Olympians for most sports aren't exactly gazillionaires out there, because what they're doing, they're focusing just on their artistry, creating the skills, but they have no business acumen. They don't even understand how the FIG, the Federation of International Gymnastics, works. They don't understand the licensing agreements between the federations and the IOC. They're just, oh, yeah, okay, because no one tells them, right? So they don't have the business managers that, you know, you guys obviously have already been taught to have before you start learning how to do backflips and stuff. So and this is interesting because we work with In Gear Productions, who helped work with you guys to make this awesome video and making the websites and everything. So she was one of the ones that worked with our team to make sure that we understood not to make that mistake. So big shout out to In Gear. They are kicking butt. But yeah,
big shout out to Trish at In Gear too.
Yeah, no, but it's that mentality that the acrobats don't quite have. They don't understand business yet. They're being taught to just kind of follow the rules until they get to that age. And then when they don't ultimately have any business acumen behind it, so they don't really get anything out of it, then all of a sudden they're out and it's over. And I think that the music industry has not made that mistake. It sounds like you guys are thinking business first, then develop the skills after, when you have that platform that allows for that growth. Because what's the point of doing something if you're not able to use it into the future? So it sounds like you guys are doing it slightly different than us, which I think is pretty cool. So this is
yeah, and at least with music, whether you have the business down or not, you have to have a good track, because you could have the perfect, you know, advertisements and campaigns to get the music out there. You could have as many viral videos as you could, but the reason those videos go viral and the reason those advertisements work is because the track itself is good, or, you know, people want to listen to it. And, you know, when you speak of talent versus entertainment, almost, I've struggled with similar things in my own social media of, you know, feeling like I have to do only drumming content, or I have to only do specific types of content, instead of be able to express myself a little bit more and be more of a person on there instead of just a drummer. And so I'm trying to open up, you know, think more outside of the box in terms of, you know, being entertaining instead of just talented, right? So going through that process, and especially with this song, that's opened my eyes a lot more to this side, you know, the more business side and the reality of the certain situations of viral videos.
No, that's a really good point, because it is both. You need to have obviously skills to get onto Team Canada, but you also need the business people behind you to make sure that when you do get that gold medal, well, you know where to go shop it around and make sure that you actually get something out of it. So I would say, yeah, equally very important. And I think this is where, Ace, we can jump back in with you here, because this is a big thing for you, is having personality with the artist, almost like social media, or that kind of vibe that's a much more pronounced than just what the skill is. It's what the way you address your audience and the way that they can address you, and they feel that kind of connection. You want to talk about kind of how you believe in the way that works, and if that is what you can teach young artists, or is that something that develops later? Give your thoughts on that. That'd be great.
Well, you know, I know Julian was born with that personality. It was no way that could have gone any other way but the way it went. He was born to do what he's doing now. And, you know, sometimes, and this is just to respond to your question, but then to kind of respond to it the way I actually want to. Sometimes I have a difficult time looking at Julian as a kid, man. He represents a grown man with his maturity level so much. You know, and his expertise as far as his ears are concerned, his timing. I have a hard time. I forget sometimes that he's still a teenager. You know, and I get the same thing from him that I would get from any one of my other co-producers that I've worked with, you know, through years, be it with Mike Powell, that Michael J. Powell, or Hines Brothers, you know, production. And I tell you, personality is probably the actual key to whether or not I'm going to work with you or not. I don't care how much money you got. I feel like it's not a winning situation to be in, because of some way a person is behaving or their character. I'm just going to say not right now. I can't do it right now. I'm not free to do it right now. You know, I'm not going to hurt somebody's feelings or crash their parade down, bust a bubble. But you definitely want someone who's educating themselves and see the value of the education. And I'm not talking about child stars or children or kids or teenagers. I'm talking about grown people too. Like, that's supposed to be mature. Sometimes you get in a situation where you find somebody that's just not where they need to be at as far as their commitment is concerned, but they want to be a superstar. That ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen. You have to have a passion for this, bro. You heard Annalisa say it was difficult. She didn't lie, man. Superstars that's in this industry that we're in now, they don't get paid what they get paid because it's easy to do. They get paid what they get paid because they're committed to continue to do it. That, you have to have a vibe of consistency to stay up there, and you have to have a passion to do it and stay consistent during some of those times where you feel like maybe you want to give up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the personality is very, very important. You want somebody who's able to make and set true and worthy goals and make good decisions for themselves. Somebody with some integrity.
Yeah.
That knows how to do the right thing when ain't nobody looking. Those are the kind of people that I look forward to working with. And so to answer your question in a nutshell, personality got everything to do with it, bro. I don't care how talented you are, how well you sing, how good you dance, whatever your gift or talent or skills are. Yeah, people, and how much money you got, none of that stuff. People will walk away from your ass, man, just to get rid of the headache.
Yeah.
Or run away from you fast when they see you coming.
That's not good. No, and it's a good point, because a lot of people think that money or even just previous reputation from maybe a family lineage or something speaks so loud. But in reality, I want to know, who am I dealing with right here? What do you like? And what do I think you're like when, like you said, when the lights are off and no one's there watching? All of a sudden, are you like a different person, or what are you? And I think it's interesting that you can see that from a producer's perspective, that you're actually looking for that. I have never heard a gymnastics coach ever say in my life that, this kid is talented, but because he has such a rotten personality, I can't work with him anyway. They tend to take the talent, because gymnastics is a lot more about just winning medals, and the personality, they're not there for the personality. That's why they wear all the same tights, same uniform. They're part of a team, so there's no personality really, so it's a different mentality, and that's interesting that you have that perspective. And I'm with you 100%. I would rather want to deal with someone than just feel like I need to, because for whatever benefit that they have. I think there's a lot more to it, and from a long-term perspective as well. And if you don't like what you're doing, then why are you doing it? You know what I mean? And so I'm with you 100%.
And for the record, I'm sorry, Annalisa. For the record, I love what I do, but I love those kids right there, man. I absolutely love both of them. Julian and Annalisa, I need to tell y'all right now, I love you guys. I love
you.
What were you? Sorry, what were you guys going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, I think that's where the music industry and the freestyling industry kind of relate, in the sense of personality really does matter. Because, I'm assuming when someone's freestyling, their personality comes through in their freestyle. And it's just like in, the music that you make, your personality is going to be, it's going to be shown in that track.
You can hear it, like when you sing, like if you have a lot of soul, like you're a soulful person, like
yeah, you can just hear it in the music. So I think that's where the two industries probably are most similar, in the sense of, like, the person who's behind everything, it really does matter. And it's not just their talent or skill level, but it's who they are as a person. That is extremely important in these two industries.
I agree 100%. When we deal with the kids and I get them to come and compete, the first thing when they ask, well, what are the rules? The rules basically don't look like the other person. If that person did that, you got to be different, right? And that's kind of the quick 1-2 we give them. And it's exactly what you guys are saying. You can't just mimic somebody else and have a ghostwriter do the same thing and then think that somehow you're going to have a different result than they did, right? You got to come with your own set of unique skills. And I think that's where a lot of people get maybe a little disheartened because they say, well, oh, I don't know, I don't have any skills, and they're a little nervous to try and be okay. Oh, who's this little guy?
This is Roxy. She's, I think, 7 months old. And
hey, Roxy, put on the red light, Roxy.
Does Roxy sing too? Or
Roxy
play
does sing.
Really?
no.
I was gonna say, I'm like, hey, I people have trained like parrots and stuff to sing and things. So I'm like, I won't put it past you guys. But yeah, okay. So let's switch it. I love it. Yes, you're 100% right, Julian, that there is a lot of similarities between the way you guys try to differentiate and that personality has to come out, and the way we're trying to get our freestyle athletes to allow their personality to come out. It's not just doing a quadruple backflip and landing it. It's about doing it in a slightly different way that just makes people go, that's interesting. And it's the same sort of thing, I think, with you guys. But let's switch it. We've been talking about a lot of nice, awesome, fun stuff. What about some of the maybe downsides of the new music industry? There's obviously, I'm going to assume a lot of people are stealing music because of YouTube and all these other kind of things. How does that affecting you guys? Does it affect you, or is that not really where it goes to? Is that more of a business problem and you guys don't have to deal with that, or does that affect all of you guys?
Well, we've seen lawsuits in the past of two songs sounding extremely similar. Like, what was it? It was one song by Katy Perry, Roar, and then there was another. There were these two songs. They were both on the radio at the same time, and they sounded almost the same. And I remember there was a lawsuit that went down between those two songs, and I don't think there was anything that came about it because of it's kind of the sense of like they sound extremely similar, but they're still different, and you can't really copyright a chord structure or a specific sound, well, I guess Ferrari did, but besides that, you can't really do that in the music industry. So, sure, there are a lot of people that are similar, and I guess that might be one of the downsides where, it's not illegal, but to take something or to make something that sounds extremely similar. But I personally think it's just kind of boring.
Yeah, it's cheap.
You know what? Let me just piggyback on you too, Julian. You got so many different options right now, especially when it comes to remixes, Julian and Greg. Remixes. And sometimes it takes that, not all the time. It's really a judgment. But then you've also got TikTokers and YouTubers who are doing covers. And I think that it's a great gift of admiration when you have somebody come behind you and do your song as a cover because they like it so much, like it enough to cover it for you. So, I mean, we don't have a problem. We don't have a problem with that as far as songwriters concerned. Now, when it comes to just straight out biting, no, you can't just bite nobody else's song, bite somebody else's track like that. No, you can't just be biting, man. You can't just be biting like that. But then at the same time, and Julian, you know this too, as a producer, we might use similar ingredients that have been successful for us in multiple songs.
Yeah.
Because that's the flavor people looking for. They want a song that sounds like the song you did for Annalisa because they love the sound. Hey, man, here again. I'll give you another referral to my great mentor, Aretha Franklin. I remember before she got to go into the studio with L.A. Reid and Babyface and record with them, she had a song on her mind that she was telling me, I want a song like this. Do you want to ride in my Mercedes? Mercedes boy, right? Who was that? Pebbles. She wanted a song like that. And of course, that probably would come best from those people who created that, which was Kenny Babyface Edmond and Antonio L.A. Reid. So yeah, we do that. Now, I haven't found it that it is it's not illegal and not considered biting if you listen to someone else's song that's hit the charts and it's one of your favorites too, and the artist comes to you, they want a song that's got that vibe to it, that you can produce an original track without plagiarizing or infringing on someone's rights. That has a flavor, vibe to it. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we are, from an expert production vantage point. You're gonna have that a lot. I mean, they've been doing that like forever. So
that goes back to earlier we were talking about sampling, basically, of where we didn't really say the word sampling, but we were getting into using older types of music and the idea of sounding the same. Mm-hmm. I know today, I mean, when I first got into production, I was kind of like, I was so against using loops and I was so against using samples, not because I didn't think it, or, not because I didn't think it was authentic, but I wanted to challenge myself and my own creativity to try and get everything that was in my brain. I wanted to test myself and just force myself to build that creative side in terms of music. But now that I've been doing that for I think a year now, I'm happy to use loops. I think it's a great part of music production, and being able to take an old sound. It's almost like taking a backflip and then maybe adding like a twist in it. That's how I can
that's
relate it
really,
best.
That's a good analogy. Yeah, no, that it is, because it has the core is somewhat similar, right, but yet you're adding different positions or different momentums or this, that, or adding a twist here or there. Yes, but you're taking that core base, and maybe that's your signature. Back to what you're saying, Ace, is that your signature kind of, everyone knows, oh, I got this because of Nitro Circus. And I just stuck with me, and everyone now knows, oh, Greg in his Hawaiian shirt and his flip-flops, and sometimes my funny little cow hat for when we have young kids, right? So, and I do that on purpose. So I'm using those samples, to use your words, on purpose repeatedly, where normally, obviously, I'm not going to wear that, but I know that that's what my audience is looking for. So therefore, I strategically plan that in on a regular basis, but not over the top basis. And I think that's exactly what you guys are referring to. Yeah, no, it's so cool to see the similarities between such different industries. In my industry, they tend to be so kind of just thinking about their own industry. They don't come from all the different angles, which I think is where the artistry really comes from. And that kind of gets me to my next question is, do you guys think that there is a different personality trait or a different type of person that is really good as an artist versus someone who's really good as a producer? Or are these kind of the same, just in different ways? Or are they different types of people?
Well, I'll take that first, and I'll just say you can be diverse and have expertise in the variety of different areas when it comes to performance and production. The sky is the limit, bro. And it's just no telling who is going to rub off on the most. You know what I'm saying? You got guys like Fam, you got Yeezy, I mean, you didn't. Okay. But you have people like that, Gales, who did it all. Prince, writer, arranger, composer, performer. Very rare that you're gonna find individuals that's gonna do all of that. But then you have those individuals that's out there that are diverse enough to be able to handle all of that. Writer, producer, performer.
And I think that's the great thing about music is that it's so free, and there's no boundaries at all. So whether you're a better artist than a producer, it doesn't really matter. And because there's always people that will, that are that other puzzle piece, to complete the picture. So it doesn't really matter if you're better at one thing or better than the other. Not only can you get better at both of them, but you can also find people to collaborate with, and two brains are always better than one. So there's whatever path you take, it leads to so many different doors that you can open, and that's prevalent, especially in the music industry.
And I think like a producer needs a singer needs a producer. Everyone kind of needs each other, and it just makes a great song.
Yeah.
Partnership. It's definitely a collaborative partnership. It isn't an individual sport. It's a team sport. Is that fair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very
It's a team effort. There's no doubt about it. Look, even after we get through with the record, bro, you still got to market that stuff. If you want to make some noise with it and make some money too, you got to be able to get it into the hands and the ears and the eyes of the people who are going to appreciate you. So, I mean, it ain't even done when you finish the record. You still got to market the record to make it hit. So
I'm with you 100%. And even with our freestyle guys, separating them from the traditional Olympics, our freestyle guys are a lot more collaborative team effort where they'll come in, have one trampoline, and 8 of them will sit around, and once in a while they'll go, but they're all just kind of hanging out. Okay, when one person goes, one guy's throwing the mat, the other guy's double bouncing them, the other guy is giving a video camera on different angles, the other guy's giving some advice, and it's a lot more collaborative rather than where traditional is just coach tells athlete what to do, athlete does as best as they can, and then there's that very linear feedback loop until you get to the Olympics, right? So the freestyle guys are a lot more, I would say, artistic, I guess. Even it's funny because they'll call it artistic gymnastics, but in many ways, it's more calculated gymnastics because you're really just looking for that perfect score, which is not really artistry as far as I can tell. So it's an interesting dynamic, but I would definitely say the freestyle guys are more kind of embracing the music culture rather than the old military culture, which is where traditional gymnastics really comes from. So it's very interesting just to hear that perspective. And so then when you guys basically think about your future, where is your future? How does this go? And not just you guys for now. Let's start with big picture of industry. Where does music go in 50 years? Is it more rhythms? Is it more samples? Is it more looping, more collaborative efforts for just random different people with different types of sounds and just more of that? Or is it going to make a big left turn somewhere that you guys see it going that maybe people like me and my audience may not be aware of because we're not as inclined to understand that stuff? Where do you guys think this is all going to go?
I've thought about this question personally a lot. And even just talking to my mom about it or my dad about, almost sort of epiphanies I've had with the music industry myself, and especially getting into music production. Something that's so liberating is the fact that every chord has already been used. Every chord, every progression of chords has pretty much already been used. When you think about how long music has been around, you have to wonder how could everything not have already been used? But the fact that everything has been used, and this is just helpful, at least coming from a drumming background, it's the type of sounds that you use that is what makes the track unique. And, there's that idea of every popular song has the same 4 chords, but the reason they sound different is because it's different instruments playing the chords. It's a different singer, different sounds on the drums, different genres, different rhythms. So I think what's going to happen in 50 years is what's already has been happening, where people are going to be using the same things pretty much, the same foundation, but it's still going to lead to a different skyscraper. So I think that's going to happen for eternity. There's never going to be a point where it's like nothing new is happening. There's always going to be something new because there's always going to be people experimenting with new sounds. People are going to like the sound and then put their own twist on it. And that's going to happen till the end of time, I think.
That's a very good point. Annalisa, do you agree? Do you have a different opinion?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I also think as music evolves, people are going to try to bring back like the older sound. So in like 50 years, I feel like the sound now, the modernized sound, people are going to try to bring that back. I
mean, people are doing that now where they're using the sound from 50 years ago. Right. You listen to, these boom bap or hip hop. Like Logic is probably the best example of these boom bap styles. That's such an old style, and he uses samples from so long ago. And when you think about it, like 20, 30 years ago, that was the new sound. Right. So the fact that we're using samples and using old stuff is what's leading to new music. And there's always producers that are against against loops, and they're super conservative, but that's going to get them stuck in their own box,
That is a very good point. I have very well articulated, both of you. Ace, jump in here. I know you want to.
About telling my grandson to tell his grandson, hey, put a little bit of that Scott Joplin with that James Brown funky drummer beat behind it, and the backbeat.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's a really good point because like you can take the old stuff and add it in with the new stuff, which actually creates a whole new kind of sound, new environment, new context to the song as well. And then you also now think about, well, how many, there's now VR and AR, augmented reality, all these things, and music's gonna kind of jump into that world too. And that's gonna change the user experience as well. So you're really drawing from all these different industries, really kind of circling around the music industry. So you guys really have a lot to choose from, which means that hopefully it won't get stale and old if you just keep thinking new and reusing old and recombining in different ways. I love it. That's what I always wanted gymnastics trampoline to be, not the same 10 skills over and over again. I always wanted to be something fresh and unique. So I think you guys are an amazing industry to allow that sort of expression, which is very, very cool. And it's amazing. And this is why I don't know if you guys know, but I used to play keyboard when I was a kid and guitar and all that sort of stuff. And I taught myself to read sheet music and I could play anything I wanted to. But I didn't have that long-term passion that you guys have. Obviously I've done that with my sports and things like this, but it's just so cool. But I would love to see is there something about the industry that you guys don't like, something that just is like, I wish the industry didn't do this, or these producers are always doing this poo-poo and I don't want that? Or is there anything that you guys would like to change about the industry and make it more of something or less of something?
Well, I'll tell you, Greg, if I tell you, I have to kill you. No, but I'm gonna tell you how it used to be and the advantages that we have today. It used to be so hard to get your publishing reports. It used to be so hard to get your sales reports, especially when you're talking about a major. We don't have to worry about that nowadays. We can count our own money, man. So it's a big difference. A wise man once said, if it doesn't make dollars, well, he said, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. I'm trying to be grammatically correct. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't even sound right. But at the end of the day, our bottom line is how many people can we impact with our music in a positive way, and how can the bank impact our lifestyle with that bread at the end of the day. And so we definitely we get into this looking forward to being able to sustain a certain quality of life, because we know that it's been done before. We know that it's been done before. And so if Beyonce could do it, how come Annalisa can't do it? If Kanye West can do it, how come Ace West can't do it? That's where I'm at. I fit in perfectly with my vision and my team, bro. And we going for it. We going for all the marbles, all the gusto, and we're not gonna stop. And I see longevity for these two. So if just so happened that my style of music is played out maybe 5 years from now, then I can go and work for one of mine. Right there. I go, sign me up. Whatever you need me to do, boss. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Write my check. That's how I feel about it. So, and I'm sure that music is evolving to a area where, sooner or later I won't be able to keep up. But let me just tell you that I'm so proud of the work that I'm able to do right now, and the things that I've done in the past, but especially right now, I'm so proud of the work that I'm able to do with Annalisa and Julian and the Peacock family and the West Media family. Yeah, this is going places where I feel like it needs to go. This is a project that I'm so proud to be a part of. And you ain't seen nothing yet.
I want to see where you guys go.
Yeah. And the fact that it's independent, because this relates to what I think is probably the biggest, I don't know if it's problem, but biggest aspect that new artists need to avoid or try their best to avoid. But with music labels, and this is a problem that's even now just starting to go away. So it's not as prevalent as it was before, but where music labels, they get you in this cycle of you sign to them and, you know, they give you the set amount of money, you know, they write you this check, but you have to use the check to build your brand. So you're buying jewelry, you're buying cars, you're buying houses. And then after a couple of years, you're now in debt to the music label. So when all these people look, you know, they're like, they got their bag, they're rich, they're living a carefree lifestyle. They're not, they're living in this debt to the music industry. And
Don't tell them.
Hell on, like, you know, oh, we're gonna get us in trouble, boss.
But I mean, I really, yeah, I mean, just creating a new path and creating a new course for yourself that's not the original or like the standard way of doing it. I've always tried doing that in my life. I've always tried, you know, whatever it is, if it's with school or with music, whatever it is I'm doing, I've always tried to find a better way to do it. So I think now is just independent artists can stay independent. I mean, look at Olivia Rodrigo. I don't think she signed to a label, but at least not now, but I know for sure with Driver's License, she wrote that in her bedroom, and video went viral on TikTok. So she brought it to a producer and they released it on Spotify, and she wasn't even expecting it to, you know, hit the charts, but
it was number one for like
skyrocket. She broke records with that song, and she wrote it in her bedroom. She didn't write it in, you know, professional studio. She didn't write it under Sony Records. So
that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
No, that's a very interesting point, because yeah, a lot of people, they'll go to these federations from our world, just like music labels for you guys, and they just kind of look at them as if they are going to give them everything that they're looking for. You know, mom and dad are not helping the case in many times, and they're pushing the kid into this, you know, but then what happens, the kid doesn't realize that they actually are in debt to that country now. You know, like when you actually want to talk about dollars, it costs like roughly about $100,000 for 15 to 20 years on a national team and going through all the training to get to that level. Well, where's $100,000 back, Mr. Music Label? Well, no, you don't go. No, sorry, you represent the country. You're now our employee. Well, hold on, where do I get my money back? Oh, no, don't worry, just keep paying the fees for all the staff in the federation. Well, hold on, but where's mine? What? Sorry, can't hear you. You know, and then that's where the conversation ends. And this is where it sounds like you're showing the same frustration that I had as a young athlete, as well as a lot of young athletes that are following the freestyle craze of being more independent, saying, I'm going to take control. If I go and I put myself into this debt system with you guys, which really is what it is, when you sign up to do a 4-year stint for the Olympics, you're in debt to your country in a sense, because they don't pay you that much. I'm not going to get into the dollars, but it's not anywhere close to what they should be getting paid. And now, but they don't realize that. So that's why now we're seeing so many more independent artists on the freestyle side and going into Cirque du Soleil and all these other kind of things that are a little bit more freestyle rather than traditional. Do you see that now more people are going to become more independent, and eventually in 50 years, there won't be any labels, because everyone will just say, well, hey, I don't want $2 million of debt. I'll just do it myself. Is that what's going to happen?
Well, you know, you got some pretty good businessmen that are sitting high atop these executives of these major labels, and they're not gonna let it get away like that, bro. And as a matter of fact, they got their money all over the place. But you know, as regards relates to music and videos in particular, they're gonna get in where they fit in, and they're gonna find ways to continue to amass that fortune. But you are so right. Once they get that Hancock, and they got to music, and they got that product, it sometimes can, you know, I've heard some horror stories that, you know, the budget's been inflated and now we own your behind. You know, there's just no way to make all that money back in a year's time. You know, maybe they'll market your music with the great marketing plan and put some money behind it where you can hit, and maybe they won't. So I think that all of those things have to be predetermined and agreed to. You might not get it. If they don't agree to give it to you, you're not going to get it. So the last thing that you want to see is somebody in a hole, you know, one hit wonder. They might make $200 million off a single, and it all goes to the record company because the expenses that they say they incurred. So it's very important when you come out as an independent that you can market your stuff, okay? Or that you have somebody that's got your back that has the ability to market your material. It's really, really, really very, very difficult. And I'm not saying it's impossible because we've seen people go viral just off TikTok with this cyber tech that we got going on. It's just something that you know, we have to
you gotta educate yourself, like you said.
Very mindful that just because we got a good record, that don't mean that everybody's gonna know about it.
Yeah, no, you gotta have all the pieces of the pie. So I'm with you 100%. You gotta have all those pieces. You gotta educate yourself. You gotta think about the personality you're projecting.
And let me say this too. Let me just say this too. There's standards that are particular the norm when it comes to industry that are ever changing. Those standards changing rapidly, bro. It's definitely not like it used to be when I first started performing with Aretha in the late 80s and in the 90s. Okay, it went from performing to now I'm writing and I'm producing. It's not like that anymore. It's not like that anymore. I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of glad that we moved to another set of standards that seem to be more beneficial to those people who are creative, to the artists and the writers, where, you know, those people are not getting gypped and cheated out of their money no more. I'm just really glad to see this day coming. Really, if you look at like your homeboy Drake there, he bragged all the time about how he made so many meals without signing a deal. He bragged about it.
Yeah.
He made millions and wasn't signed to a label. Okay.
Good. So you see that as a good thing, that now it's more openness, it's more in the hands of the artists rather than the big
for the people, it's good for the people. Yeah, it's good for the people that God blessed with the ability to be able to do it. And not just the people who pushing the pencil. And you know what I'm saying? You gotta the artist, man. You gotta think about the artist, bro.
I agree.
Got to. And you gotta think of authors, the people who are writing the songs. Okay? When it comes down to it, the artists, you know, for too long now in our industry, even when you talk about across the border from where you're at right now, the Motown era, a lot of those guys died broke, bro. Okay? So now with the new cyber age of music, digital technology and downloading and streamings, there seems to be a platform that's going to sustain the livelihood of artists to where they can make millions and millions of dollars on a global stage and not die broke.
Right, because money no longer has to come from big corporations. And then when, you know, your supporters are trying to support you, that goes directly again to the big corporations because you're trying to pay that back. But with the internet and virality, with TikTok, Instagram, social media, you can be directly supported from your patrons and your
That's right.
And your supporters. So with merchandise, you know, no one's really going to make a lot of money from streams alone, but it's almost like the music is a form of advertisement in itself. So you pull people in with music and you're able to make the money then from hoodies, t-shirts, stickers. You know, you could sell you could overprice a hoodie just because your song is that good and because it connects with people that well. So you no longer have to be paid from someone, you know, in a suit and tie anymore. You're able to be directly supported. And that's where the industry is going in the next few years, I think, because it's already going in that direction.
And don't he get hot and get you a makeup line or tennis shoe line,
Yeah.
or clothing line. Don't get hot. Don't get hot and get you something that people can put on. Because it's all in popping then. And that's where we're going, G-Ro. That's where we're going. We're going to music and merchandise. Music and merchandise. We're going all the way to this. Yeah.
I like it. I really like that kind of global thinking where it's not just, oh, my talent has to somehow be transformed into money by somebody else, which seems to be kind of what it was before. Now you're taking control over it yourself, saying, no, I'm going to be, it's the whole vertical and the whole horizontal all at once. And you're at the start, you got to figure out who you are. Then you got to figure out who's going to write it, who's going to be part of your team, who's going to then make sure it looks really good, who's going to get it to the right people, who's going to make sure people pay for it, who's going to make sure that people are wearing the stuff that you wear when you're in, and all this sort of stuff is now being put into the hands of the artists, which I think is absolutely perfect. Hey, it's better for education, it's better for long-term growth, and it's also better to free markets. Milton Friedman, right? You want to make sure that you have the control of what you're doing, not someone else is just squeezing you until you, like you said, die broke. So I think that is a good place, and I hope our industry also gets a little bit more like that. And I think freestyle is so biologically deep into people's psyche that the traditional federation is going to eventually have to make room for this kind of adjustments the way you guys are clearly embracing it. And we're seeing a lot of that in the traditional industry. They're asking to set up new freestyle associations with us and all this kind of thing. So you're seeing the biology at work. So it's very cool to kind of hear your guys' perspective and see those parallels. So I really appreciate the time you guys have given us. Is there any final words of wisdom or thoughts that you'd like to tell our audience, or even just your own audience of musicians, something that you want them to really take away and keep in their mind when they're producing their next track?
I think the biggest.
Annalisa, you want to jump in? Yeah,
I would just say it's all about like confidence and like being kind of secure in your own voice and your own sound, and then kind of not be afraid to put your ideas out there, because you can't be in the music industry if you're afraid. Like, you need to be confident and you need to go into it knowing what you're doing and being open to new ideas. Because
you'll always find a pool, to swim in. It's just about having the dedication and the, you have to just keep working at it and just know that sooner or later, people will find you. It's just a matter of how long, and also not just working hard, but working smart, analyzing whether it's with social media, looking at videos that did well, looking at videos that don't do well, looking at videos from other creators in your same field that are doing well, and taking little bits of information from there. And then now that you work smart, then you can work hard.
Absolutely. So be open to accept constructive criticism. Something that I had, I was like a baby, man. I was so sensitive, man. Somebody come to me saying something about they ain't like about my song. You should change this sound. I look at them like, that's the sound I want to use. Why should I change that sound? Well, because it ain't hot no more. That's an old ass sound. You got to be open to accept some constructive criticism and use it to build from. Like, everybody's not trying to hurt your feelings when they say your song sucks because of such and such. You know, take that to heart, you know what I'm saying? Take it to heart and then go back to the lab and find a way to tweak that thing. So the next time they hear it, how you feel about this? And I have situations that even still today, some of my mentors, who are in industry, I might send them some music and they be like, "No, man, that need to have a such and such. You need to cut this off of that, such and such, such and such." You have to take into account that sometimes these people know what they're talking about, or I should at least be open to consider what they're saying. Let me try it and see what it sounds like. Yeah.
We did that with this track. I remember being in the studio working on harmonies for Annalisa's vocals, and there was a clash. And so I brought it up and we figured out a way around it. But there are so many other examples just with this song, where that's where it helps to collaborate with someone that is going to be beneficial to the team as well. Because if you're sending your stuff out to people who can't give constructive criticism, then it's not really doing you any good. It's really only harming you. It's only going to hurt your mindset. So you surround yourself with good people and send your music out, or whatever you're working on. You send it out to those good people who you know are going to give constructive criticism and feedback.
Honest feedback, though. That's the big one.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want someone to just lie to you and tell you it's great, and then you look like an idiot now out there in front of the whole world. So there is that balance between what you said, Annalisa, is being, confident in your own self and all that stuff, but also knowing that we should also be confident in the, feedback that you're getting from your audience as well, and finding a happy balance with those, and throwing in some hard work and some good educational prowess, as you said, Ace. I love it. All that mixed together, I think, definitely is a winning combination. So guys, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about this. I feel like I'm understanding the music industry a lot more by just having this simple conversation. So I really appreciate it. I hope our audience can take something away and compare, to the way you guys have now opened up and more independent artists are getting their chance. I hope Gymnastics can kind of do that as well. So I thank you so much. And yes, we'll have you guys hopefully back on with another time when you guys are done your next track. And when that music video is done, big shout out to In Gear Productions again. When that's done, then we'll definitely follow up.
Yep. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Greg. I follow your trampoline thing on Instagram, man. That thing is way out there, boy. That trampoline thing ain't nothing to play. I love it because I used to be a gymnast myself.
Really?
I love the trampoline. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
That is so cool. How old were you when you were done?
I was 11, 12, 13, 14 when I was doing my handsprings and my somersaults. My brother and I, my mom took us to the gymnastics school, bro. And yeah, it was tough. It was tough, finding out that all these months she was flipping the wrong way.
All right, well, then next time we're in Michigan, then we're going to come and visit you guys. We're going to do a big group lesson, and we'll all have you doing backflips.
Let's do it.
Wonderful.
Perfect. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'll get out of here. Thank you, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you so much, Greg. Mr.
Bye.
G. Rowe.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a few things. There's a big world out there worth exploring, and I'm happy to be able to bring these great experiences right to you through this podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast and learned something, please share and take a screen grab of our funky cartoons and hashtag GRT certified for a chance to win a shout out to our community. Also, please leave us a review to be part of helping this information get out into the industry. It's much appreciated. Along with these podcasts, we have a large online content hub that we call the GRT Network, with many other interviews and full tutorials and written content discussing everything about acrobatics. We will be constantly growing this archive of videos like a cross between Netflix and Wikipedia for anyone in the acrobatic industry. We also have a complete online educational program for athletes of all levels that provides a do-it-yourself pathway to success for any acrobat. Check out our constantly growing library of playlists that will teach you anything from tightening up your social media, to how to get around fear, to even learning all the biology that underlies all your acrobatic skills. We work very hard with our team around the world to provide this exclusive content for you, and appreciate any donations made to the FDA to help keep these episodes coming at you. And if you want all the content, become a GRT Network full member to get exclusive content before everyone else and access to special discounts and giveaways through our amazing global partners. Thanks guys, see you next episode.